All right, there we go. So start your heater back up, Lucas.
All right, welcome to hang on, let's do the intro. Welcome to Clean Breakthrough Podcast, brought to you by Greenville Transitions Recovery Center / Sober Living. Lucas is on a heater. You gonna get back on it, dude? You gonna get you? Can you get it? Can you pick it back up?
I can.
Or is it too far gone?
No, I mean, we're just talking about like there's some parents that I've been working with that have been talking about not knowing that their son was doing drugs or drinking for like a decent amount of time. Like I think for both of them, maybe like a year or two, if not longer. And just the things that play into that are interesting. And I mean, there's no like fault there. But I think in both cases, I don't know that drugs even seem like an option in their minds while there were like consequences and things like that going on. And then, there were other things that it could be blamed on of like mental health issues, which I think is something we hear a lot of. Things look more like mental health issues than they do addiction. And because like for the Venn diagram, those have so much overlap with what they can look like. But then the biggest thing being like proximity, and that if you're away at college 3 states away and all you have is the information your son is telling you. And I made the point that like I know some people do this, but I don't think a lot of people are going to call back home and be like, I'm addicted to cocaine and I can't stop. And all the money you send me, I just keep spending it on it. And I need more. Send me more, like I don't think that that's normally how it's going to go. So they're not telling you. So you just kind of have to read between the lines and look for signs and stuff like that for a thing that you're not even suspecting of because you've never known that it could or would be an issue.
I think for a lot of families too, a lot of parents, it's it's when they start to feel like something is going on, or they're starting to get that gut instinct that something's not right. They just want to pretend like everything is okay, and they'll start to justify it in crazy ways of like, oh well, maybe he bought another textbook, or maybe he did. I know that was the case with my mom. It was like a don't ask, don't tell, and she would make up any excuse of why I'm not going down that path, even if it were crazy.
Yeah, we're usually always looking for the easiest like solution. I think as people, and come to terms with the fact your kid like has a substance abuse problem or an addiction is extremely like overwhelming, and it's like, what do you do with that? Especially if you don't have like personal experience with it. Like what do you do? Do you send them to rehab? Do you send them to see a therapist? Like how do you figure that out? So I think we just look for the path of least resistance, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think even personally as a parent, it's just so easy to miss because we have so much of our own stuff going on, and my kids are much, much younger, but even that, like I have like a lot of responsibilities for them. Even with that, like I still get more caught up in like the things that I have going on every day with my relationships, work, and just kind of like, oh, they'll figure it out, you know. So imagine then like your child being in their 20s, like there's definitely like way more bandwidth there, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling a mom this the other day to kind of relate that, my kids are little too and basically just born. But my 2-year-old, I'll see like other little kids he's playing with, and they'll be doing something like acting out or not being bad, but just like something you wouldn't want your kids doing. And it seems like always in that moment, I'll look over and see my son just like kind of focused, quietly, like playing, just like doing kind of what he's supposed to do. And I'll have the thought, I don't even have to say it out loud, but I'll just have the thought like, I'm glad my kid's not doing that. He's different, whatever. And without fail, like 30 seconds later, he'll be like eating dirt, licking a tree, like destroying something, like it like comes right around in my face almost immediately where it's like, yeah, your son too. He does all that stuff too, as much as you don't want it to be, and that he's like special and different. He does some wild, goofy stuff that 2-year-olds do across the board, but he's no exception.
Do you think that like that pride, in him doing the right thing, if you will, like in that moment? Do you think that comes from a place of wanting to be a good parent? And if your child is behaving, then you're a good parent, like that formula? Do you think it's coming from there?
Dude, if I'm being honest, I think that it 100% comes down to the fact that my wife is an addict alcoholic with a lot of it in her family, and I'm an addict alcoholic with a lot of it in my family. And I'm terrified for my children when they're like 20 to 25 years old that's going to rear its ugly head. And I think my brain is just looking for any signs that that we're in the clear on that, or that's not going to, that there's no signs of that at 2 years old of like lying or punching or kicking, and not that stuff's even tied to it, but it's just my brain trying to like rationalize, like, all right, look for the signs, as if that gives me some time to like prepare for it better and be able to handle it better, which it just kind of is what it is, and you got to figure it out when it shows up.
But because of your background and your wife's background, I would think that you would do a much better job of catching those signs and being able to talk about everything openly and honestly before a lot of other families who may not be as close to addiction or substance use disorder. And I think another problem out there is media and how media portrays substance use disorder and addiction and how it creeps into your family. And it's like a terrible life of like living in the streets and those are the people that it touches, when in reality it can touch every family. It doesn't matter if you're a lawyer, a doctor, whatever. It just has a wide reach.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of families would be quick to say like, oh, it could never happen to my child because they were raised in the church, or like we sent them to a really good school, or they have all these reasons why it can't. And so they're blind to the signs when they start to creep up.
Yeah, it doesn't discriminate when it comes to that kind of stuff. But also, I think that's why it's so important. Like, I feel like the antidote to that is to talk about it. All the people who are sober are in recovery, because like there's a family that we've worked with, and I remember I took it as such a compliment, but also kind of a weird compliment. But he was like, you and David, you're just like the most normal guys. You guys are just normal, but I hear y'all's story and it's like crazy. But today y'all are just so normal, like you'd never even know. And addicts, alcoholics can be kind of crazy. And even some of the sober ones that like work in the field can be kind of even crazier. And y'all are just the most normal, just regular guys. So I think it's like important that when someone's like, what, you were a heroin addict? Not to like scare them or lean into it for like shock value, but just that they know that like, yeah, like, and this is the family I came from. This is how I was raised. So like, right, none of that really makes sense. And then this is all the stuff that I did. And then here's my life today. To fight that narrative of like that you're under a bridge, with a brown paper bag. And I know that's such like a tired trope of even fighting against that stereotype, but I think it still exists for a lot of people. Not my kid, not in my neighborhood, not at our school. That stuff won't persist. And then the second part to that is that I think that as much as you think because you've been through it, you're gonna know. I think stuff changes so much. Like the generational divide is so big, where I was thinking about how I'm literally becoming like the kind of person that bothered me when I was like a teenager, like my parents, basically. Like I keep having like fond memories of the 90s, and I see stuff on like Instagram and I send it to everybody, to the point that some of my friends are like, leave it alone. Especially like some of my younger friends are like, what is going on with you in the 90s? Like it's done. Like leave it alone. It's over. And it reminds me of like my parents and people my parents' age talking about like the 70s and how things were so much better then, and they were simpler, and I would just never get it. And the music was this and the movies were that and all that kind of stuff. But I think with that comes the change of drugs, of like what drugs are people using? How were they using them in the 70s versus today? And a lot of it's going to be similar, if not the exact same. But like I saw a stat the other day. God, I wish I had it on me. But it was something.
You pull it up.
Well, it would take me too long. I'll just generalize.
We
say
need a
that,
Jamie.
and say that I'm generalizing, but it was that marijuana was like had grown in potency since the 90s. I want to say it was by 300%. I have it posted at the GT office now. I found all these like interesting facts.
Oh, I might have that.
I gave one to Cole. He might have it laying around.
No, I definitely threw it away. Here, I got you. Hang on one second. But yes, it has increased a ton.
But I want to say it was 300%.
We talked about this the last time we got together on here, where it was like used to be like 15%, and now it's 98, 99% THC.
Mm-hmm.
But 300% more potent than the 90s to today. That's the 90s.
Yeah.
Not even going back to like the 70s or something.
Yeah. Well, and now kids don't even want that. They want the synthetic stuff, the complete, like made up in a lab.
Well, they
Right,
also
yeah.
kind of want like just the legal, easiest thing to use. Like the vape pens make sense from like an accessibility standpoint, like where you can use it. The same as nicotine vape pens made sense that, oh, now I can do it inside and I blow it out and it doesn't even smell like pot.
Yeah, I mean, this is like I think this is the National Library of Medicine. This is an article from this is 2018, so this isn't even like most up to date, but it's just talking about marijuana in prior to the 90s, like the actual THC content was less than 2%. And then in the 90s, it grew to 4%. But between 1995 and 2015, there's been a 212% increase in THC content in the marijuana flower. As it's just being like different strands are being created. And then you get into what Dave was talking about with the synthetic part of it. Yeah, just obviously way more powerful. I think I do think there's also just like a human thing going on here that we just want to be prepared. We want to be prepared for, and this goes way back. Like we want to be prepared for the famine, the drought, the war from a neighboring country, whatever. Like we have these things built in us for survival, and we want to be prepared for like what our kids are going to go through. And the reality is we're just not going to be. Like that's just the reality. We're not going to be prepared for it. I mean, you like Lucas, in your situation, you might like be really watching your kids and like a hawk for any type of addiction tendencies. But there's going to be stuff that's going to come up that you didn't see coming, and that's terrifying. And it's the same with my kids. It's the same with like our clients. But I'm pretty sure there's something in like recovery about like one day at a time or something like that. Don't they say something about that? Like, and that's just the reality of it. Like we just have no idea what's coming our way, and we try to guess as much as we can to feel secure in that.
Yeah. But there's also some good in that of by letting them fail. Because if we always knew, if we were always prepared, if we were always catching them in a safety net, I mean, that's what lands us in these problems where now they have no self-esteem and they're using all the time because they feel bad about themselves. And mom and dad have done everything for me my whole lives. And so there needs to be some level of like failure and problem solving, and for the kids' sake, like it's scary, but you have to run into these problems as a parent. I saw a video the other day of a Japanese father who would purposely like set up obstacles for his toddler, like a little 2-year-old, and then he would keep walking and like step over the obstacles. And at first the kid would just have a meltdown, like just plop down on his butt, have a meltdown at the first obstacle, and the dad would just not go back and pick him up. And eventually the kid would, or the toddler would get up and try to start figuring it out and then start to maneuver his way through the course. But just to give his kid a sense of self-worth, self-pride, accomplishment, doing hard things. Thought that was great.
Yeah, Lucas and I were having a debate at the gym this morning And I know Lucas like agrees with it, but one of the points I made was, my job as a parent isn't to provide my kids with like this conflict free, comfortable life. I see part of my role is obviously to love them, teach them how to communicate, but also to give them opportunity to develop resilience, to figure out like problem solving, to go through hard things. And there's plenty of hard things that are coming for people any which way, but you can, I think, be selective about what you choose to build up that resilience. Kind of like the dad, like with the obstacle course, like in a safe manner, like you're going to be safe. We're going to like figure this out. This is how you gain the confidence to go through the really hard stuff that comes up in life that you maybe don't see coming, you know. But just figuring out like how to like teach your kids how to be resilient, it's really really scary, and you feel bad too as a parent. At least I do. I feel bad about like creating struggle or seeing them struggle, and you want to kind of fix it for them.
Yeah. Well, and I'm also not there yet. So I don't have kids. Y'all do. So I don't know how hard it is to watch that struggle.
Yeah.
No, that part I think I'm good with. Like the line that I've found, and it's one that I normally promote to parents, is to not go out of your way either way. Like don't go out of your way to make your child's life more difficult to try and like teach them struggle, and to not go out of your way to make their life easier to make it more comfortable. And that like life is really hard enough and things come at you. And I know some exceptions to that are like, well, you send them to sober living. That could be seen as you going out of your way to make their life more difficult. But then it's like once they get to us and like in our sober living, like there's going to be enough hard stuff going on that I don't need to make their life any harder. They already have to like go get a job when they haven't worked for years, and or refigure out how to get back into school, or develop relationships, find hobbies. Like there's all this stuff that's like hard enough, where I just see my job as like just motivating them through it without doing it for them, or making it easier for them, but also being like supportive and helpful. So I just think there's like always this line to walk there, where it's easy to go a little too far either direction, and then to overcorrect either way when I catch myself going too far.
Yeah, what do you think about asking the question, am I doing something for them that they're not able to do for themselves, and therefore like I'm helping them, or am I doing something for them that they're completely capable of doing for themselves?
I think it's simplistic, but I mean, we always kind of want these like easy statements like that to just fit into everything in life. And I don't know that it does, but I do think that that's like the general idea,
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, the part that I can't relate to is I don't have 20-year-old children and what that looks like. So like my version of it is like, well, my son, now he can put his own arms through his shirt after I put it over his head. And so from here on out, I'm always going to let him stick his own arms through, even if he kind of struggles with it for a minute. And that's kind of my level of tough love right now. Like stuff like that, or not capitulating to a tantrum, or
yeah. I think too for parents is like learning your own like distress tolerance, because it's a real pain in the ass while they like flail and whine that they don't want to put their own shirt on, even though they can. And just like dealing with like that may make you later to wherever you're trying to get out the door to, or it's going to be more of a pain like that you have to like talk to them about, hey, we're cleaning up this room and you're put the books back on the shelf, like where they go, and like dealing with just the tantrums of that. And I think for a lot of parents, and I do it myself, we just rather just for ease and like avoiding the conflict, just fix it ourselves. Fine, we'll fix it. Fine, we'll fix it. We'll clean it. We'll do this. And that's a real easy habit to get into. And then as the stakes get higher, we see this with our parents, as the stakes get higher, whereas like potential legal involvement, potential losing like academic progress, sports progress, whatever, like the amount of times I've talked to parents who have done homework and term papers for their college age kids is wild, or have like literally got their kids out of legal situations, by saying like, hey, get the beer out of the car. Like, because the stakes are getting higher and higher and you're terrified. You don't want your kid to experience those like real life consequences that end up, potentially setting them back really, really far. But you also don't know like what could come out of that struggle too. So it's easy to say that when it's not your kid too. I definitely recognize that.
That's for sure. And I agree that the more severe the consequences are, because you're like, this is going to stain my kid's life for the rest of his life. Or I could just step in and help. But then it's just, I think then it's easy to try to justify that, like however you need to. And so the bar gets lowered to like doing a paper for them rather than, man, they made one dumb mistake in this legal situation at 16. Their frontal lobe isn't even fully developed. Like, let me help them not have this impact their record for the rest of their life. If there's a path where they can work their way through it and do some kind of pretrial intervention and, whatever. Again, it's just such a hard line to walk. I would say it's impossible to walk perfectly. And there's just always mistakes and overcorrections either way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. Like there have definitely been times with my 8-year-old who's in second grade, they were like trying to run out the door and she has her homework to do. And I'm like, the answer to this is 64. And I just write a 64 down. We got to go, but then there has to be like a follow-up. We were like, hey, if you have homework, you need to get that out of your bag and we need to work on it the night before, not the morning of, like trying to get to school and just trying to do the follow-up. So I think that's a really important thing for parents to remember. Your most vital tool is like repairing, going back, even if you make a mistake, go back and trying to like make an amend, to correct it, to try to have a new way forward. That takes a real degree of like self-awareness and humility to do that. But that is the number one thing you can do for your kids is like show them what it looks like to really take ownership of a mistake, instead of just doing it over and over.
Yeah. And I think that to like bring it back to addiction recovery, stuff like that it's so parallel in my mind to addiction, alcoholism, whatever, that it really comes down to me of like the difference between instant gratification and delayed gratification. And instant is I'll just write down the right answer so we can get out the door because we got to get like that's the easier fix in the moment. But it kind of can create bigger issues down the road. And then the delayed one is like, no, I'm going to sit here right now and do the harder thing. And a lesson will be learned, whatever, but I'm going to have to kind of struggle through it and suffer through it and watch it. And it's not going to be pleasant, but longer term, it'll lead to better things. And I think that's the exact same thing as the person in early recovery. It's like, there's the easy thing that I do, which is to go get high or drunk about it. And then there's the hard thing to do, which is to actually cope with whatever I'm dealing with in a different way.
Yeah, everything has a cost. Everything has a cost of comfort, of being exposed and vulnerable, being late to school. You name it. I mean, everything has a cost.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It can just feel like a really negative bad thing. But it also has benefits too.
Yeah. That's like the quote, there's no solutions, only trade-offs.
Yeah.
I like that a lot too, that nothing is just a fix. Something has to be given. But anyways, that was my tangent.
I like it.
Heater. Absolute heater, man.
Good tangent. What else do we have? Do we want to throw out one of these questions that?
I'll tell you a little bit funny story from the weekend. Can I tell you a funny story?
Yeah.
All right. So this weekend, I took the kids on Saturday to I can't remember what it was called. Like Bounce House America or Big Bounce America. Look, I don't know. All right. This thing was Coachella for children. It's out in the middle of nowhere in this giant like cow pasture. And it has the world's largest bounce house, along with like probably 15 other huge bounce houses in this field. And there's like food trucks.
Where is this?
And this was in Anderson,
Okay,
dude.
so South
And it
Carolina.
was the people watching was out of control. Okay. Anderson,
Carolina,
South
on the
Carolina.
map for the largest bounce house in the world.
Yeah. And it was raining. Okay. So it was like kind of sprinkling and rainy. Um, definitely had like, they had a few covered areas with chairs, and we were holding a couple of chairs for the wives who were like out like messing with the kids. And of course had a couple of guys come up and be like, "You're all gonna hold these chairs?" And we're like, "Oh, they're for our wives." He goes, "What about everybody else's wives?" And I'm like, I don't know what to do with you, man. Like, sound like you're just pretty unhappy in your life. I digress. Anyways, kind of rainy, children going crazy. I definitely saw like two different kids just like vomiting uncontrollably, like over the banister. I guess they ate too much like funnel cake and then bounced too much. I go into the castle, which is probably about the size of 50 yards long, probably like 30 yards wide. And it's a castle, and there's a DJ in the middle, and they're shooting foam all over the place. They're doing songs, everybody's bouncing. There's like grandmas falling down on me. There's kids running by me. I land on a kid. I like, it's raining, it's wet, slipping and falling. I look in the corner. There's like a child in the corner in a fetal position crying. There's kids like look like they're on meth, just going nuts. It was absolute like complete like overload of the senses.
This sounds like my worst nightmare.
It was it was wild. I don't even know what the point of this story is, other than like I'm glad I went in there with my kids, because I don't think they could have accurately portrayed to me the chaos that was in that bounce house. But my thinking was like, it's the world's largest bounce house. I got to go in there. But David, it would have been your nightmare because there's like
Dude.
standing water in there. The foam that they're shooting during like the Frozen song "Let It Go," they're shooting foam over everybody, but then it's like landing in the water, and it's like paper particles. So there's like floating paper particles like in the bouncy water, and you're wearing socks, so your socks are like really like wet and soaked through, and there's like hair floating. David,
Bro, no way.
it's
That kids throwing up, disgruntled dads who don't know how to handle their emotions. I'm out. I would have immediately, I would have probably walked out of the car for 2 minutes, turned back around, and gone home. Sorry, kid. Not doing this today.
yeah, the certain level of like dissociation. But I feel like I was just in it, and it was like, well, we're doing this thing, and like I don't know. I am glad I did it. I would never do it again. But I am glad I did it so I get an idea of like what my kids were doing in there. You know what I mean? Like what was going on in there. Because I like I said earlier, I don't think they could have really told me what it was like. But it was wild. It was really
What it
wild.
reminds me of is like me going to these music festivals back when I was still using that would last like
Yes.
4 days. They'd be like Thursday to Sunday. You're sleeping in tents. I'm like washing off in a river that runs by the venue, using porta potties that people have just demolished. And I think back to those moments in my life, and it makes me question my whole existence. Like, what was I doing? What was
Yeah.
going through my head at that time where I thought that was worth it?
Mhm.
It
I thought
was.
of you with that because like I was like walking around in the field with like a backpack. You know what I mean? Like I'm just disgusting. Like walking from bounce house to bounce house, like
People knocking.
weird food, people bumping into you. Yeah. And then and like I said, it was like Coachella for children. But yeah. But wasn't that one of the questions? Like what was something that didn't you have a question about that? Like something that you did? No, your question was like something in recovery that's
There was one similar. Oh no, it's kind of the opposite.
yeah.
It was what's one of the most unexpectedly boring things that you do now or love now that you would have thought was lame when I was using. Or
I
you
am
were,
curious though, Lucas, do you have one kind of like if Dave is talking about going to music festivals, which I think you were even doing sober too, right?
yeah, but not many. I think I did one actual like multi-day festival sober, and I was like, yeah, it's not for me anymore. You know,
Yeah.
cocaine made it tolerable.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything like that, Lucas, that you look back at and you're like, God, I mean, besides doing drugs, but like just activities or like ways of living that you're like, I can never do that now.
Yeah. They're kind of extreme. I mean, they're like a no-brainer, you know, like I was telling some of the guys in our house the other night because they were just asking me a lot of stuff about like when I was using, especially when I was younger. And there was a time that, and I'll be just as the least graphic I can be, but I
Mm,
ended up in an abandoned house at 16 with a lot of like 40-year-old. That's what they look like to me. 40-plus-year-old like drug addict alcoholics that were. There's a lot of crack and stuff going on, and that's what I was there to do. And there's like a baby crying in another room, and it's just like dilapidated. And I smoked so much crack cocaine that something happened, and I woke up to one of the older women there was trying to force feed an Adderall pill down my throat while beating on my heart. And I came back to her like beating on my heart and spit whatever she was trying to put in my mouth out. But she thought that would get my heart going again.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was that. And like, meanwhile, my phone's ringing because I stole money from my parents to pay for it. And so that's like ringing just like back to back to back. Mom, 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 dad, dad, where are you? Where are you? Call us now. Call us immediately. You're in big trouble, you know, to where you're just like, oh, this is the worst feeling on earth.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember, like, probably even before whatever happened, I remember thinking, like looking around and thinking, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And I don't know why I'm here and why I'm doing this. But then just kind of pushing that down and doing more drugs to cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
Not like a music festival, but
Worse.
not even worse, just like more, I guess, like specifically to do with like drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Yep.
But lots of stuff like that. That's just one that always sticks out to me for like my age
Mm-hmm.
when I was in, just being like really rough and not, like I said, not what I was supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, one of the things that scares me the most today is how many years I took off of my life or what I've done to my body internally with what I put it through.
Mm-hmm.
The drugs that I put in my system, the nights I stayed awake, like nights on end, losing sleep, just like even the small things like that, like not getting proper sleep. Dude, yeah, I put my body through a lot.
I don't know. I think on like, I mean, I totally get that, but I think on like the hope side of it, even seeing doctors like early on getting sober, this time that it's like stuck, but like even 2 3 months in, getting like liver tests done and being like, hey, like everything's bouncing back. Like you're like everything looks good, physicals. And then now today, my stuff is kind of boring of just like genetic high triglycerides and like, you know, like cholesterol stuff that's just to do with like
Mm-hmm.
not even my diet as much as just genetics.
Yeah.
But like I don't have that I know of really like lingering stuff from drugs and alcohol. I mean, you never know what it shaves off the end of my life or anything, but I'm kind of a believer that you can, if you change that stuff early, I don't think it has as much impact as like a lifetime of like 40, 60 years, day in, day out, just abusing drugs and alcohol.
Mhm.
There's like more of a point of no return.
I mean, I think both y'all were really fortunate for, obviously as many years as you used. Y'all both got sober at a time where like you hadn't done like irreparable damage. Like, and you're
Debate.
also pretty young.
Haven't had a brain scan yet.
Maybe this is a different issue. It's a different issue. I mean, I think you could also do comparison. Like, I mean, I'm like 2 years older than you, David. Is that right?
Yeah.
Like, and I,
How old are you?
don't. That's
38?
39.
44.
39.
I'm 36.
Yeah. So, okay, 3 years older than
I'm
you.
35.
So like if you like look at that, and like I never was like abusing drugs and alcohol like that, but I would not say that we're like drastically different in this stage of our lives, because I didn't and you did, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's crazy how fast you can bounce back to Lucas's point. I mean, I had a psychologist tell my mom that I'd never be a fully functioning. She was like, the psychologist was like, hey, he burned himself out. Like he may not
Mhm.
ever come out of this psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
Like said some
It takes time. I mean, we've had conversations like that with parents of like, hey, it's going to take a minute for him to hopefully bounce back, and we just don't know. Like we don't know what he's going to really come back to.
yeah.
And that can be very scary for parents to hear. And it becomes strange, like 'cause sometimes they will fight that, because it's like a reality they cannot fathom. Or when the guy starts getting a bit better, then they're like, oh, he's fine now. He's fine. See, becomes this and can rush the process of like what maybe he's ready for.
Yeah.
We've seen that with some guys too.
Yeah. To prove to themselves that they're normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it just lingers for a while. And I think the pathway back from drug induced psychosis seems like, from what we've seen, some like pretty hard, not hard, but like just like heavy side effect antipsychotic medication that really makes you very sedated. And I don't think people on that who have like that's a new thing, like how they feel, not having energy, being tired all the time, increased appetite, increased weight gain, paired with like early sobriety, psychosis just in the rear view mirror. It's just like it's a tough road. And then you're talking about doing that 6-9 months, a year, slowly stepping off that medication. But I've also seen the guys that have successfully gone through it, and I mean, they're so much better. I mean, they're like to your point, David, and I don't know what normal is, but like they're not in psychosis anymore. Like they're doing really well and sober, and like achieving goals in their life. And
Mhm.
so it's like it's so worth it. It's just makes that first year, which is already tough enough in early sobriety and recovery, makes that much tougher
Yeah.
for the family and the guy or gal.
For sure.
But no, something boring, probably tracking credit card points and like bonus offers and stuff like that. That would be something that I would kind of be disappointed in myself if I was 16 and I saw myself doing that. I'm just like, what happened, man? What happened? We were on top. Look at you now. Refreshing the Amex Platinum card window on incognito mode 100 times until you get the bonus offer you want. What are you doing with your life?
In incognito mode. Oh my god!
And I got it. Okay, I got 150,000 welcome offer.
What are you gonna even do with that? I don't feel like even like traveling like that.
No, I'll be able to go on 3 5-day trips and stay in hotels covered.
Yeah, but when are you gonna do that? I feel like you don't travel like that.
Well, I've been having babies. My wife has been having babies.
Your wife been having babies.
I've been around for it.
You got
But
sober
even
living
before
babies.
that, you didn't really care to travel.
I didn't have Amex bonus points.
Oh Lord! As somebody who has traveled with Lucas, it's an experience. A
Yeah.
lot of it's an experience.
But I feel like even when I would bring up travel to you before, like, oh, dude, you should go to New York. You'd be like, no, not interested.
Actually, where do you want to go, Lucas?
Yeah.
I'm sure he wants to go somewhere, David. Let's see where he
Chicago
wants to
is the
go.
one.
Chicago is one that my wife and I have been talking about doing for a while. And like we wanted to go for our honeymoon, but it was COVID. And then we wanted to go a couple years later, but we just had a baby. And then she quit her job. And like there's just been a lot of moving parts in my life. And then yeah, we want to go this year, but then you're thinking about like, all right, the new baby is gonna be like 6 months old in September, October when we want to go. Where it's like, do we just want to wait a year? But then there's gonna be another baby on the way. It's like this period is just kind of tough to do that type of stuff. And we got to work pretty quick when we got married. It was like get married, get a house, and I want to say within a year and a half pregnant. And since I have to defend myself on these issues, to defend myself in the past,
Yeah.
a lot of times it was like, oh, like, let's like, what if we went on a 5-day trip? And I just couldn't imagine doing that with the sober living. That is a 24/7 operation, 365 days a year. And it's not easy to just walk away from for 5 days with all the potential things that can pop up. And there can just, and I'm not saying that that's going to happen or that will happen, but there can just be a lot of anxiety around that of like, what if a relapse happens while I'm gone? What if a staff member quits unexpected? Just stuff that's kind of wild. And I will say, to justify that further, when I went to Las Vegas for the first time to see a UFC event, I think the first morning I woke up, someone had relapsed on a overnight visit with their family. And at like 7 o'clock my time, maybe 10 a.m. y'all's time, I was like waking up to text messages and phone calls about what happened and how it was going to be fixed and where he was going and looking at detox. I mean, just all kind of stuff. So even just one incident
But it
like
all
that,
got handled.
it did, but it definitely makes a trip stressful.
Yeah. But
And
you'll
like
have that with,
in my mind, getting to a place where it's like, all right, I'm not, filling in coaching where like I literally cannot travel, or, program directing where got to be like really plugged in and knowing these guys ins and outs of their lives.
Yeah. I mean, that relapse was handled. It did get everything turned out very, very smooth with that. But I
It
can
was.
see the stress of it for sure.
Hearing that the
Well,
first
all
morning,
three of us went. I mean, all three of us went to Vegas like the next year, and I mean,
and
it
it all
was
worked fine.
pretty smooth.
You didn't
Yeah.
hear me complain one bit. I said, this is an awesome trip. I love it. I'm having a fun time.
Yeah. I would just say that you could make that point with anything. You could say that about having a kid and be like, oh, but there's going to be so many unexpected expenses come up, and we don't know what kind of problems could come out of having a kid, but it's one of those things you just do and you figure it out.
Yes.
So you're saying you should do that with travel too?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think especially as a business owner, you're always going to have anxieties around that. I certainly have them too, but I think I have a little more of a mentality of like, you know what? Like, I'll get it figured out regardless.
No. No. That's not a fair comparison at all. At all. Not a fair comparison. Nice try.
I do think there's like it becomes like it goes back to the cost benefit. There is going to be a cost if you have to go travel. You know what I mean? Of like stress of like what's going to happen at work or whatever. And is the benefit worth it? Is it worth like risking it? I remember like Christina and I having conversations about that because she went to Italy with her mom on a trip that came up when Coco, our oldest daughter, was like a little over a year old. And it was like the first time she was gonna be leaving her and with me. And it was like, I don't know if I can do it. And I'm like, this is the benefit of this is gonna be really good because it's gonna give me more confidence as a dad. You can go spend time with your mom in one of your favorite places. And also just to give you more confidence to like go and do these kind of things in the future. And it's going to be fine. And luckily it was fine.
Man, happy Mother's Day. Shout out to the moms out there.
Happy Mother's Day. Anyway, so where are you going, Lucas? All right, to Chicago. That's where.
Chicago. I've looked at Portugal, Japan. I'd say those are probably the two like abroad ones, and then stateside. Chicago is the main one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and with 100,000 Amex points, I can stay 5 nights in a hotel, like a mid-tier, nice enough hotel, covered. And so that makes it more appealing to me too, for just like the money side of it. That just sinking $5,000, $10,000 into a vacation. I just have, and it's also just priorities. People just have different priorities, and I wouldn't knock anyone for theirs being a vacation. But right now, something important to me is paying off vehicles and like not having as much monthly payments on things.
Making babies.
And making babies. And making babies. And that's a short when you think about it, like I want to have 4 kids. That's going to be like 6-8 years of my life. And then I'm so excited to travel with like 7-year-old, 9-year-old, 11-year-old, 13-year-old, you know, when they're like, get it, and are not excited, but like I'm way more willing to do. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm not saying it's easy. I think there's all kind of hardships with that, but I think that that's easier than like breastfeeding baby while pregnant with a 2-year-old, you know, like that's just really hard.
No, for sure.
And people make that work too, and good for them. That's awesome.
When they get out of like the 2 naps a day, you know, or can nap on the move a lot easier, and the breastfeeding isn't happening. Or if they'll like take a bottle, it becomes way easier to move about and go on trips and stuff.
Kids that age do so good with like ritual and stability and the same time every day. I mean, I feel like when you start to jack that up, it can make, and then that's just going to hurt your trip if kids are like not in the mood, not eating, not sleeping.
Yeah, dude, travel is hard on an adult, much less a kid. Like it's changing your diet, your sleep schedule. As an adult, especially abroad.
David, keep going.
Especially abroad. That's really tough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's really tough.
You have a wife that hates airports and germs. Whew, can really do a number on you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's mine.
That's yours. What's yours, David?
Something I'd be disappointed in myself in.
Gosh. You know, some of the first things that came to mind, like organizing my laundry the way that I do and my sock drawer and the way that I fold my shirts, but I actually did that stuff in active addiction. So I couldn't look back and say it's lame. Dude, I'm probably gonna say just like the dad jokes and stuff. Like I am becoming, like Lucas said earlier, like the version of my parents that I said I would never become. But more and more now, my wife calls me out. She's like, "Why would you just say that to our neighbor as we're walking the dog, or we're at a restaurant?" And I just have to make like this dad joke. And I'm having trouble thinking of one off the cuff. But that kind of stuff where I say it and then the old me's like, "Gosh, you loser. You are your dad."
But you weren't goofy like that in active addiction too?
I was goofy, but it wasn't as like, I don't know, it was like cookie cutter dad jokes as they are now.
Yeah.
They're a little more like spontaneous, wild jokes back then.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know.
So the conclusion is David hasn't changed at all. Okay, cool. Like,
Or I would say
David.
business podcast. That would be the other one. Old me would hate that about new
Oh,
me.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what about like stuff you read or watch?
Yeah. Ah, actually, going back on that, it was just more of what I was into. Like I would stay watching hydroponic YouTube videos of like how to grow the best aeroponic or hydroponic marijuana. I don't know.
Marijuana. Yeah. Wouldn't you say probably
Really?
I would think like the biggest one that would be for both of us would be really like being sober,
Yeah.
like going to 12-step meetings, being sober, liking it, talking about it, let alone like working with young guys, trying to convince them to do it. Like that would be the biggest kind of like cringe. Cannot believe this is what I'm doing. Lost the
Oh,
plot.
yeah. 100%. Like if you would have asked me 15 years ago what I'm doing with my life, I would have told you I'm going to be the biggest marijuana farmer in Georgia because it's going to be legalized any day now.
Mm.
And I've been working on it illegally. So
Is it
that
legal in Georgia now?
no, you can't, bro. No.
I didn't think so.
But like even 15 years ago, I was convinced that any day now,
Yeah.
the tables were going to be turned and I would be ahead of the curve. Old Green Thumb David was coming through with the hottest crops.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Hot crops.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be
Like, it's not like maybe just a recovery centric, or even like probably going to therapy. Like that would be cringy. I'd
Mhm.
imagine.
Like choosing to, wanting to.
Like actually investing in your like emotional mental health.
dude. I
Mm.
always liked that.
You like going to therapy, even when
Yeah, even back then, bro. You give me somebody I can trauma dump on, I'm in.
dude. All right. So the summary of this, Lucas, definitely some differences there for sure. David, complete same. Doesn't do drugs anymore. Doesn't drink more. Just the same. He just shifted everything. He's no longer he's no longer trying to like be a weed farmer or whatever, but still same type of like drive and motivations, and that's really funny.
Yeah.
Really.
But you just brought up Lucas, and maybe not for this podcast, but a different one. It would be really interesting. You brought up 12 step and just how it would be really good to talk about how our relationships with 12 step has changed over the years.
Mm.
I think that'd be a good topic.
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask Cole.
What's your question?
The same one that David and I answered. What's
Yeah.
something that like
What's
when you
the
were
most
younger?
unexpectedly boring thing that you now love doing? Well, and to be fair, Lucas, you said sober was the main thing, but
Yeah,
this,
that would be the biggest thing.
but this said, what's the most unexpectedly boring thing you now love doing sober that your old self high? So I kind of like,
No, I like it better the way you asked it.
yeah. But Cole, I guess without throwing the word sober in there, what's the most unexpectedly boring thing you now love doing that you once would have called lame?
To be honest, I'm kind of like you, David. Like, I feel like I was always like a little old man,
A
even just a nerd, dude. Just a nerd, a little old man, like my entire life. Um, Man, I'll tell you one that I did not enjoy when I was a kid, but in adulthood, I freaking love is working in my yard. Like, I love it. Like, I love cutting my grass, working in the flower beds. I was making a joke earlier today, like the perfect Father's Day present for me would be to like rent a skid steer and like my wife and kids just be gone for the weekend and just work in the yard with a skid steer, just digging shit up, just making trenches, making retaining walls, just going crazy, and then just slamming tombstone pizza at night and like binge watching shows and then just getting up and doing it all over again. Like that's a perfect like Father's Day weekend, in my opinion. Um, but I remember as a kid hating cutting the grass. I thought it was so boring, so hot, didn't like it. And I even worked at like an outdoor garden center in college and just talking mad shit to the people who would come in on Saturday and Sundays to get like, mulch or rocks, railroad ties, pine straw. And I'm like, these idiots are spending their money on pine straw. Like, what are they doing? Just absolute talking trash, like in my head about these people. And I am that person. You know what I mean? Like, I get in my old truck like on Saturdays and I go to like the Ace Landscape Supply down the road. And I'm like, it's time to get mulch. Let's do this thing. And like dump a load in, take it back to the house. Like that's one that comes to mind because I absolutely love it now.
You know what I'm really surprised you haven't gotten into yet is like the golf course type lawn maintenance, like striping your lawn, getting it all even by aerating it, sanding it. Like I could see you going there with your yard work.
Mm-hmm. There's levels to it. You know what I mean? Like there's certainly like costs associated with it. And like, I still have like little kids, and other responsibilities like going to giant bounce houses on the weekends. So I can only put so much time in it. But I could definitely see myself like as they start doing more of their own thing, like being that old man, out in his yard doing it. And when I cut my grass, like I do it in lines. Like sometimes I go diagonal, sometimes I like it's looking real good right now. I got a good
mower striper though.
Yeah, that's true.
The roller behind it so that it actually stripes it.
Yeah, that's true. I'll just like cut it in rows.
Do you want to know something really nice to know?
Yeah.
Yeah, something really nice to know. Tell us.
I want to say it's still the case that the best ROI on like home improvement stuff for the value of your home is outdoor hardscaping and landscaping. Yeah. Like
more than like a bathroom or a kitchen.
More than bathroom, more than kitchen, more than like adding additional square footage. Like they did the calculations on.
I don't know if I believe that. Where did you find the stat?
I've seen it for years. I've seen that twice. I just saw it again recently.
Huh.
Yeah.
That would be hard to. That's hard for me to believe over adding square footage on.
Read it and weep, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm gonna.
And I'm not just saying mowing your lawn. I'm saying like I added over here. I put in like hardscape steps. I did put a retaining wall in. New beds, mold,
these maple trees.
Yeah, like stuff like that. That's the best you can do. Sorry.
Interesting. Yeah.
Interesting.
I would love to believe that. Because that's probably where I like probably put the most time in. And we've done like a lot of stuff inside the house too since owning it, but
no, you intuitively knew it all along.
What's that?
You intuitively knew it all along. That's why you're doing it.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah, it's a 2-for-1 financial. Well, I'm a finance major, so maybe that was my teachings from college was coming out. It's a good investment, and it was good for my soul too. But that would be my answer. Yeah, working in the yard. I never thought I would be that person. I thought I would hire a crew to do it. I thought people who worked in their yards were losers, and there were so many other things you could be doing for fun and spending your money on. And now I am that person, and I'm proud of it too.
Yeah,
I call it working on the farm. Like I'll tell my wife, like worst time, like I'm like Saturday morning, I'm like I get done with my coffee. I'm like I'm gonna go work on the farm, and then I'm like out in the yard, just walking around. Like I would like an overhead shot of my house and just seeing my steps. When you play like a video game, you can see like where you've been on the map. I would like to see what it looks like around my yard on like a Saturday. It would look insane. It would be insane the amount of just walking around everywhere.
I think you can do that.
I had looked at like my Ring doorbell and like watching on fast forward to watch me going back and forth and like in the flower bed and just it's really funny. Look kind of like a crazy person, but it's okay.
It's all good. Just boosting the value of your home.
There you
Yeah,
go.
well, next time you go to do it, just set your Apple Watch as you're doing an outdoor run or an outdoor walk, and it'll trace you.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It'll map it out. We can make this happen.
Okay.
Very
There you go,
inexpensive.
Dave. Yeah. Sounds good. Cool.
In other news, I figured out a way to make us go viral.
What you got?
Yeah, we haven't been getting a lot of views on the YouTube, on the social media, so I figured it out. This is like the Trump all. You ready? So I'm coming up on 13 years clean. Got just under, I'm like 12 and 3/4 years sober.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it all away. I'm going to start smoking crack on the air, documenting it live stream for people to see how much I burned my life to the ground.
No.
That's
no,
that's not
I'll
happening.
do it. I'll do it. I'll take
Okay,
one
yes,
for the
since
team.
you're not
I need to
sober,
come. I need to join the sober crew anyways.
dude,
But like
what we'll do,
y'all just I'm just sitting here like talking to you guys about what it's like smoking meth on air, and you're like, Cole, you just put it down anytime. And then it becomes like you watch a promising therapist descend into madness. You guys do on-air interventions to bring me back into sobriety. I think that's the way we should play this. 13 years is too much to throw away,
hey,
David.
but start light. Like we'll start with Delta 8, and then we'll keep like upping our game.
We're not doing any of that.
No,
Cole's not doing that. David, you're definitely not doing that.
You
Joe
wanna-
just doesn't like this.